Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is February 10th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. We got Alaska, BC, Washington, Oregon. Check out our next storm system out over the Pacific Ocean here. Not an exceptionally strong storm, but it will bring an uptick in winds. It'll bring some rainfall, and it'll bring some snow for the mountains here, and we're going to dive into those details. We'll also take a look at the extended forecast, as it looks like we're going to build a ridge up across Alaska and try to bring some cooler air here down towards the Pacific Northwest. We'll look at the potential for that as well. Looking at the visible satellite imagery, look at this. You can see the sun rising across the Pacific Ocean. Our next storm system out there. Some light showers out there kind of falling apart as they reach the Washington coast. But there's some nice sunshine out there to be had today. So enjoy that before the system gets here, because we're going to be dealing with the rainfall as we go through tomorrow and on in through Monday across much of the region. Take a look at the moderate sneaker wave risk. This is Medford, Oregon. Portland also has one out, and you should probably consider it for the Washington coastline and some of Vancouver Island as well. These waves can run up much further than the normal wave height, and they can be quite dangerous and even deadly, so watch out for your children, your pets. Don't turn your back on the ocean. There's Portland's look at it as well. And with patchy black ice, pretty much anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, when you get that overnight clearing and you see your car's thermometer down into the 30s, you might want to treat any kind of moisture on the roadway as black ice. It can be very difficult to see, and it can be quite deadly as well. Now, looking at Seattle, 49 degrees yesterday, 1 degree below average, and we're not doing too hot with precipitation so far this month, just over a half an inch there, but we average about 4 inches for the entire month. And if you want a nice, affordable home weather station to record this crazy weather we get rolling into the Pacific Northwest, give this one a try. Click on that link down below to save 10% off. Lightning detection system. It's got a haptic rain gauge, ultrasonic anemometer. It's got a great smartphone app as well. If I click on the temperature, I can see all the graphs. Same thing with the lightning, the pressure, all kinds of good stuff on there. Highly recommend. Taking a look at the European model, last night's run on the left versus the GFS. We're looking at 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. So here's Washington right there, and you can see our weak system off the coastline there, rolling in as we go through the day tomorrow and on in through Monday. Some convergent zone activity. Then you see the ridge build here and tries to allow some north flow and some cooler air to make its way down into the Pacific Northwest. And then we're going to take a look at the next system, because that's going to make a big difference in what kind of chance we have for any kind of lower elevation snowfall. We'll look at that here in a moment. Now, if we look at the European on the left versus the GFS on the right, 5,000 feet, you'll see some of that cooler air try to get down here. But, this is not a lot of Arctic air trying to get stored up across British Columbia. So this is by no means any kind of Arctic outbreak. We're just talking about maybe leaking a little bit of cooler air across the northwest Washington and into southwest BC, and then maybe overrunning some precipitation with a perfectly placed low after that. And I'll show you what I mean here when we start looking at the GFS right now. This is hot off the presses. Here's our initial system here, fairly weak low, some mountain snow, some rainfall across some of the area here. Then this storm system kicks on through Monday, continue with some convergent zone activity across the Washington Cascades, bringing some snow across the Rockies of Idaho, Montana, and British Columbia, Alberta as we go on in through Tuesday morning. Then the next system starts rolling here, and we've got a little bit of cold air in place trying to sag down across BC, and you'll see it does start at as snowfall across some in northwest Washington and southwest BC with a perfectly placed low. This is a scenario that could happen here, but I'll show you what the problem is here in a moment as well. And then we scroll off into the future. You can see some of these systems mainly into California here, but we get a little bit of the leftovers trying to run back over the Pacific Northwest. Nothing too exceptionally strong in the extended forecast. We'll look at the Europeans' extended forecast here in a moment as well. But first, let's look at this incoming system on the European. There we go, bringing some precip, some mountain snow, and then we continue that precipitation on in through Monday afternoon and evening. That kicks off to the east through the Rockies. And what does the European do with that next system? It has nothing to do with it. It does not want to bring that low back up across Washington or southwest BC. I mean, this could change. Obviously, one of the models can flip and flop back and forth. But right now, it is not showing that snowfall potential for southwest BC or the northwest interior. So we got to check back again here tomorrow. So stay tuned with us for that. Taking a look at the North American model, I want to show you the breezy conditions coming in here. You can see the winds eventually picking up here as we go through tomorrow morning. The coastal areas, northwest interior up the Strait of Georgia. A little bit blustery through the Puget Sound as we go through the afternoon tomorrow. Then we get the wind shift starting to come down. You can see it. That's when we might get some convergent zone activity as we go through Monday night into actually Sunday Sunday night into a Monday morning, and through the day Monday, you might continue some of that across the Cascades, hopefully overperforming as far as snowfall is concerned. We definitely need the snowfall. Looking at total snow, Kuchera ratio in inches, and you can see it piling up a bit here across BC and some of the Cascades, mainly central and northern here. Snoqualmie Pass getting a few inches, maybe if we're lucky. Stevens better amounts, shows up over 10 inches, and some of the northern Cascades again. Not much prog here for the Oregon Cascades, however. Some of the Rocky Mountains of Idaho, Montana, and BC and Alberta might not do too bad, as well as British Columbia, and we might get a nice little coating here across the Olympic Mountains also. Now, looking at positive snow depth change in inches on the European model, BC, Washington, Oregon. Here we go. There comes our system rolling in here as we go through the day tomorrow, trying to accumulate some of that snowfall across British Columbia. And then you can see it as we go on in through the day tomorrow, and tries to pile up a bit here across some of the Cascades. Now we're headed into Monday morning as well. Convergence zone activity, hopefully locally enhancing some of those amounts. But you can see this is not one of our big classic Pacific Northwest snowmakers that is incoming here. But, beggars can't be choosers, especially during an El Nino year. Total precipitation in inches on the national blend of models. Let's put this into motion. And this system is targeting Vancouver Island and BC, and eventually the Olympic Mountains and some of the North Cascades, Central Cascades of Washington here. You see not much for the Oregon Cascades or the coastal range. Look at Willamette Valley, maybe just a few hundredths of an inch here, and this is all the way on in through Wednesday. However, the next system on the European, it does show it coming and clipping some of Oregon here as well, and the national blend of models, as you can see. So hopefully we can bring some precipitation in here, some portion during this next week. Wider view of things here, European model, taking a look at the extended forecast. There's Alaska, BC, Washington, Oregon. Here goes our system off the coastline right here. It's moving into Vancouver Island, and that finally passes through on Monday. And then we talked about that next system. I mean, look at the yesterday afternoon's European run had no system at all, and then last night's had that system moving into Oregon. So you can see how the models are flipping and flopping back and forth, but you see we remain fairly dry all the way in towards the weekend here. Weak systems off the coastline, main storm track pointed at California, but to the extent the European does show some pretty chilly air setting up over western Canada here, but this is way out in the extended forecast, so we're not going to get too caught up in that just yet. I mean, we got a long way to go before we start believing any of that nonsense. You can see it is butting up against the Rockies pretty good there, and some of that would try to spill out into the Pacific Northwest. So I'd definitely like to see something like that, but I'm not going to start believing it here until a few more days pass of some good model agreement. Now, taking a look at the avalanche danger, you can see some of the moderate across the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, and there still is the high, the flashing there for some avalanche warnings across some of Yellowstone. So heads up for that. Go ahead and check this if you head out to the backcountry, even on a day like today, across the Cascades of Washington, Oregon. Go to the website here, avalanche.org, and click on any of these individual locations that you may be going. It gives you all kinds of good information. And the SNOTEL, of course, not much change here. We need some more snow across the mountains. Is usually the case, but day 1 through 3, winter storm impacts, just some minor impacts, maybe some moderate across some of the higher terrain out there, but not too big of a deal right now. But anyway, yeah, we'll continue to watch that. We'll watch that ridge build and see just how much of that cooler air can leak down. We'll try to get some model agreement over the next day or so, because we can see where that next system is going to come in. Because as I talked about yesterday, the European wasn't even showing anything. Now it shows it going into Oregon. The GFS has it coming up all the way across Washington into southwest BC, trying to interact with some of that cooler air. But anyway, we'll check that out again tomorrow. I know the European is going to be running here soon, but we'll look at that again tomorrow as well. We still have a couple days to watch that. But right now, this storm, pretty good model agreement with some snow across BC, and then the rainfall, a little bit of uptick in the winds here, and hopefully we can get the Cascades to overperform as we go on into the day Monday. But anyway, we'll check everything out again tomorrow. We'll break everything down again, and I hope you guys are liking these videos, and we will talk to you later.